I was backstage along with you listening to Ben Zander, musician, conductor, wonderful speaker, cellist, actually. Also, I was very lucky when I was a graduate student at the New England Conservatory in Boston. I heard about this class called interpretation. I heard some buzz around this class. So I signed up for this semester-long class, and it was Ben Zander and interpretation. Interpretation of life and music, and you can hear how he really believes in the power of music to transcend cultural differences, to just speak to everyone. Classical music, speak directly to people in a very direct and emotional way. And that's something that he just projects all the time in everything he does. The first assignment that we had for that class was to write him a letter starting, "Dear Mr. Zander, I got an A because." And then what we had to do is create a person that we wanted to grow into, someone that we wanted to become, with values that maybe we feel we weren't focused on at that time. And for music students who spend hours a day in the practice room trying to play faster and louder or softer than the person you hear next to you in the next practice room, it's not often a focus to think of who we want to become, what we want to contribute, and why we're actually doing this in the first place, why we are playing music. So it was a wonderful thing that he gave us that opportunity to think about that, because we don't spend that much time doing that when we're in the practice room 8 hours a day. So one of the things I spoke about in my letter was the reason I play the cello and I like being on stage is that feeling of the connection with the audience. And to me, it's something like tapping into some kind of energy that's already there, using the music and the instrument that I have to just connect to it. And it's, cosmic energy or a vibration or, something between actually human beings, which exists. And to me, the point of what I do is to connect to that and connect to as many people in the audience to that same vibration. So that's what I spoke about. And I'm going to get back to vibration in a second. But what I wanted to center my talk around is when I was 13 years old, I played the cello for 10 years by then. And my family moved to Oakville, Ontario from Richmond in British Columbia. And my parents signed me up for a summer camp. Not an outdoor summer camp, but a summer camp called the Southern Ontario Chamber Music Institute, which may sound a little scary to a 13-year-old, but it was the beginning for me of the next 20 years of a career in chamber music, a love for string quartet playing. When I was 13 and went there, I had never played a string quartet before. And I wasn't given a piece that was simple or banal for a 13-year-old. I was playing a Dvorak string quartet with 3 other musicians who were actually, to me they seemed like women, but I think they were in their late teens. So to me they seemed much older. And immediately it was amazing that it wasn't a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old trying to play together. Something about the music, the institute, and that kind of connection that 4 musicians can have. We were equals. We were playing the music together and studying it together. And this is something that's very specific and special about the string quartet: 2 violins, viola, cello. I think anyone who plays in a string quartet regularly knows this. It is like a 4-way marriage with all the things that entails in a music world, from making career decisions, like should we take that concert, should we take the early morning flight or the night flight, or where should we go eat while we're on tour, all these kind of decisions, and personalities. That is a really interesting thing in a string quartet. Of course, there's the first violin, the leader, the second violin who follows the first violin, the viola who kind of gets stuck in the middle sometimes, and the cello who's supposed to be this foundation of the string quartet. But of course, with different personalities in the music world today, that balance isn't always quite like that. So it creates a form for the members to really work with that and see how they can negotiate the music that they're playing and the interpretation that they're doing, plus all these personalities that are involved. And when we were at the Institute, we rehearsed, I think, for at least 6 to 8 hours a day. And these are, teenagers. It was amazing that we could somehow have this focus and want to play this music. And of course, as teenagers, there's also all the hormones going on, and there's boys and girls playing together, this beautiful, transcendent music, so maybe that's involved too, and just making the experience a full experience. But it was incredible how that situation just instilled this love of playing and working with other people. For most of the people that I know who were at the Institute at the time that I was, I actually met the string quartet that I would play for the next 6 years at that festival. I then actually later joined a professional string quartet when I finished my studies, and I was with that quartet for 8 years. So you can see that this institute was really the beginning of something for me, and I still love string quartet playing. The repertoire is incredible, and it's so interesting. I think someone should do, people have done studies on how the members work together, but just comparing the music to how people work, it's very interesting. And actually, that's the other thing I want to say about vibration. Of course, playing in a string quartet, you're constantly adjusting to 3 other people, to the music, the flow of the music, what the composer has written, the air in the hall that you're playing in, how the audience is reacting. So there is something that is constantly moving, constantly adjusting, and we all sense it. In a string quartet, it's almost like you have extrasensory perception. You're almost predicting what the other person is going to do. I remember one of our teachers, Donald Wallerstein, who now teaches in Boston. He was the first violinist of the Cleveland Quartet for many years. And he would say that we should look at each other's left-hand fingers and feel each other's fingertips, or that we should play to the center of where we are, and then the sound will go out from there. These are very abstract ideas, and they're about finding something in the air, some kind of energy or something to match up to. It's very not necessarily an easy thing for a young person to understand, but in the quartet setting with the music, it just made sense and it somehow worked. And when you're in a wonderful string quartet who has worked very, very hard, when you're on stage and you all tap into that vibration or flow or energy, it feels like you're flying. It's just incredible. It's somehow the music is carrying you along, but you're actually creating it. It's just this, you lose your sense of self, and it's an amazing feeling. It's very addictive too. That's why performers like being on stage. At some point, real life becomes almost pale in comparison. Okay, I see the time. The last thing I wanted to say is being in a string quartet was one of the reasons why I was able to play on this Strad. This is a Stradivarius cello. What am I doing with a Stradivarius cello? I'm very lucky. I auditioned for this competition that exists in Canada. The Canada Council for the Arts has a musical instrument bank of quite a few rare, old, wonderful violins and 2 cellos. And every 3 years they have this competition. You go through an audition process and you play. And there's many factors involved: how many concerts you give, what you do in Canada, and what stage you are in your career. But I was really lucky to have this, to be chosen and to get to use this instrument for 3 years, which is incredible. And this instrument was acquired by someone who remains anonymous, was loaned to the council, and then the council, through this competition, decides who gets it. And 3 years is really wonderful. Everyone should be able to play an instrument like this, but in 3 years you can really learn so much from the instrument. It has huge depth and range. I've had it for 1 year, and my learning curve went like this, and now it's still going like this. So I have 2 more years to make the most of it. And one of the first things I played on this cello was Bach, because Bach is our essential bass. It lets the instrument ring as naturally as possible. And I'm going to play some Bach for you now. The first suite, and I'm not sure how many minutes I have because that's a 0. So I will maybe cut it a little bit. I'll do 3 movements of Bach: the prelude, the sarabande, and the gigue.